Hello anybody, and welcome back to Let's Play Banjo-Kazooie. I'm Mr. Devious, or just Deeb, and in the last episode, we finished up Treasure Trove Cove and returned to Gruntilda's lair, and in today's episode, we are going on to, if you want to place all the pieces into the picture, just press the right trigger. And that is Bottles teaching us that we can quickly fill in the pieces of the portrait, but I'm filling them in at my own rate, damn it. And in today's episode, we are going on to the next world in the game, which is right down here. It's Clanker's Cavern, and if you look at the portrait, you can probably tell what kind of level the third world is gonna be. It's gonna be a sewer level, which you can kind of tell by the environment around it, and also the MIDI shift that you hear when you... That was weird. The MIDI shift that happens when you get close to the portrait, because one of the best parts about Gruntilda's lair, like the MIDI shifting is pretty great in this game as it is, but it's especially good when you're in the areas for each world. Now before we go up to where Clanker's Cavern is, there's something I want to show off first. If we come down here, and as I swim, with Kazooie doing the better swimming, and Banjo being good for accurate swimming, incidentally, just thought I'd show that off too. If we come down here, we'll actually find a secret portrait.
I've got this skirt, so when I'm thinner, it really makes me look a winner.
So there's this place called Click Clock Wood, as you can see by the name on the portrait, but we can't see what it looks like, nor can we fill in the pieces, because there is no, friggin' pad for us to stand on that we can insert jiggies with. So that's gonna be a thing for us to do much later in the game. It'll become relevant when it becomes relevant, several episodes down the line. Just thought I'd show that off, and that it's really cool that they put that there. Now that that's out of the way, we're gonna be heading up here and towards Clanker's Cavern, the next level in the game. It's across the way, all the way over there. How do you get over there? They actually hide a button down over here. One last thing I'm gonna say about the difference between Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie is Banjo-Tooie just has you stand on buttons, whereas this game has you actually use the ground pound to hit buttons. And I'm not actually gonna hit this button yet. I'll save that for after we are done with this world, because it won't be relevant until then. And welcome to a new world. Just the one new move to find this time, but it's hidden well. So welcome to Clanker's Cavern, probably the fan least favorite. Now as we immediately come in here, you'll notice that it'll drop us off into the muck and not really give us a lot of time to really... I mean, as far as I can tell, getting out of there without falling down here is extremely difficult. I'm not even sure if it's possible. But getting in and out of this world is actually kind of tricky. Well, it's not tricky to get in, but when you do come down this way, you want to come over this way. You want to be careful when you come up to these things. These things are terrifying. These are... I forget what they're called. I think they're just called chompas. But you can kill them, but they're one of the most dangerous enemies in the game because they can do extra damage to you. Lucky you, I'm an invulnerability feather. Bottles will tell you more. And that is like one of the last items we're gonna pick up in the game that will tell us what they are. They're called an invulnerability feather, so you might be able to guess what they're for. So, welcome to Clanker's Cavern, third world in the game, and it's a sewer level. Who'da thunk? Now, as I was saying, Clanker's Cavern does have the prestigious award of being the fan least favorite, I think, at least. Not a lot of people I talk to like this world, and if they do like this world, they might like it much less than all the other worlds in the game, and I can kind of get behind this line of thinking. At least in the regards that I don't like this world relative to the other worlds in the game. That being said, I think this world does get a lot of crap that it doesn't necessarily deserve. I wouldn't say it gets a lot of crap, but I do think it's a little underrated. In that just because it's kind of the worst world doesn't mean it's a bad world. It's an underworld world. It's an underworld level, as you can see, and that already kind of loses it some points. But as I'm going slowly through here, there's a reason. It's because on the other end of this tube, we have something terrifying coming up. Something that haunts the nightmares of many children. It's Clanker.
Clanker, which is garbage grinder. Clanker not like dirty water, want fresh air.
This is Clanker. He's absolutely terrifying. He's a giant metal shark whale. I mean, I have no idea what he's supposed to be. I think he's supposed to be a shark, but he has a blowhole on the top, so that already doesn't tell me anything, any idea of what he's supposed to be. Anyway, this is going to be the main chamber for Clanker's Cavern. This is the majority of the world, and you can kind of do it in any order you want. Now, what I'm going to do, for this world at least, is I'm going to go outside, go through the outer perimeter, and go through all the secret hatches on the side to get through them. I will say that this is the first world in the game where you really have a threat of drowning, and you need to watch your air meter. And like most games where drowning is a possibility, they kind of give it a terrifying, realistic animation. I've noticed that in games with drowning, if you drown, they are not pretty about it. They draw out the whole thing, and it is nightmarish. I'm not sure if I should have come in here, but we'll see. Yes, I should have. There's a Jinjo. One of these tubes that you can go through goes on for a long, long time, until touchdown brings me around again. Okay, I'm done. But yeah, you have a lot of air to work with, and also this is sewer water, so that is gross. Now, I think there are some notes down there, or I think those are gold feathers. You want to get a few gold feathers while you're around here, because you can only hold a maximum of 10 for the time being, and they are fairly scarce in this game. I mean, they're invulnerability feathers, they're not going to be super common. Now, coming up here, we're actually going to come into a sort of fight, and this isn't really I mean, it's the closest thing this world has to a boss fight.
Snippet mutants are we. Jigsaw is ours. Fight us, you must.
So here we have some crabs from the previous worlds that are going to be chasing us. They might seem tough, but oh, they can be tough if they kind of ambush you, but the way to deal with them, they're really no different than normal snippets, and that all you really need to do is just ground pound them, and you'll be perfectly fine, and you'll also build up a huge horde of honeycombs in this area. And with that jingle,
Speeding snippets mutants are we. Yours is prize.
I'm Sorry. I didn't mean it. So yeah, we want to get our notes. I don't really like the camera angle in this room. It's kind of weird. One of the weaknesses in this game, actually, even though the camera in Banjo-Kazooie is really nice, there are some key areas in the game where it's just very uncooperative and just not very convenient. But with that, we get our first Jiggy of the world. Also, one of the more exciting Jiggies in the world. Clanker's Cavern, even though I do think it shouldn't be disliked as it is, because it does do a lot of things well. It is very creepy and eerie, and even though it's a grungy industrial theme, this was before grungy, brown, and dirty was oversaturated in video games, and if there's one thing I think Rare has always been good at, it's been industrial levels. You could see this in the Donkey Kong Country series, in the Banjo-Kazooie series, in, well, mainly those two. I'm trying to think of any others, but yeah, the factory in Donkey Kong Country 1, were there factory levels, industrial levels in Donkey Kong Country 2? I can't even remember at this point. Well, whatever. I mean, it had polluted levels and things like that, but those don't really count. And I think this is the long path that you want to have like a full thing of air for. Otherwise you will drown, and that'll be terrifying. Yep, this is definitely the very long path, and at the end we have ourselves the second Jiggy of the world. So you'll notice that we're getting through this world pretty quickly. And we did get through Treasure Trove Cove pretty quickly, and even though Mumbo's Mountain is the shortest world in the game, and every world thereafter is pretty long, I would group the worlds in sets of 3, because there are 9 worlds in the game. The first 3 are kind of the easy worlds that are easy to do. Also, only 2 units of air. You definitely want full air if you're going to go through that area. Jesus, where was I? Yeah, I would group these into sets of 3, with the first 3 being sort of the easy mode world that ease you into the game. Even though this level starts to take things up. I already went through here and now I'm wasting time. Even though this level starts to kind of amp the difficulty up, I can see a honeycomb piece that we want. And yeah, this level has the threat of drowning. It has the chompas that do 2 points of damage. It has a very nasty atmosphere as opposed to the very friendly and happy environments that were in I hate this part. There we go. As a very hostile environment as opposed to Treasure Trove Cove and Mumbo's Cavern, which were quite welcoming, all things considered. Oh! Actually, these guys aren't too bad to deal with if you just jump at them and do the peck. As long as you have that, they should not be able to kill you. Now, I think with that, we've taken care of the outer perimeter of the level, or at least the underwater outer perimeter of the level. And for any more progress, I think we're gonna wanna dive into the water and go deep down, deep down. Like, terrifyingly deep down. When I was a kid, this part was always absolutely terrifying for me, and you might see why when we get to the music shift, and just, it's scary down there, because when you do go down there, and I mean down here where this chain goes, because Clanker said he wants air, and the only way to get air is to find out where this chain goes and what we can do with it, but listen to that music. Banjo-Tooie does this too, but when Banjo-Kazooie does this, this is absolutely terrifying, and the fact you're so deep down, you can drown very quickly. Oh god, I might actually drown. I need to find somebody. Where is he? Where are you, Gloop? There's an air giver down here. Where the hell is he? There he is. Okay. Okay. We're okay.
Hi, I'm Gloop. Grab my bubbles if you're low on air.
And we're just gonna refill a little on air because Gloop is here to help us. And he actually takes a lot of the stress off of this area, but I was always absolutely terrified to come down here as a kid. It's so deep, you're in constant danger of drowning if you aren't good enough to get the bubbles. And quite frankly, this music is... I don't know what you call that in the music. You can definitely hear it when it changed over, but if anybody knows exactly what that is, please tell me. It's just... Like, is that supposed to represent a specific instrument or sound, or... It's very unsettling. I mean, it's definitely supposed to be unsettling down here, and... Yeesh. All in all, I would actually say this is one of the most terrifying areas in the game, and this is considering that there is a haunted world. In fact, I would say that this is the most terrifying area in the game, depending on what you're afraid of course, but now that we've gotten all the notes down here, which are kind of hard to get when you're swimming, we come to this key that is in this anvil, and what you want to do is you got to swim through it 3 times, just swim back and forth, and I'm gonna have to go get some air, I think. But as we turn that key, we're gonna help our friend Clanker. He will be lifted up, he will be raised high above the water, and he will raise to the top. And a Jiggy will appear on his back. Oh god.
Clanker has fresh air. You find reward on Clanker's back.
And now that we've gotten a little refill on air, I'm gonna just swim right for the top. I think I might not have enough, but this is gonna... Oh, geez. I think I'll be fine. Yeah, 2 units of air should be enough to get me out of here. I find it curious, actually, that the water in this level doesn't... I mean, obviously it can't drain your health too fast, because it's the 3rd world in the game and you wouldn't have enough to get around, but there are just later worlds in the game where there is nasty water that will drain your air more quickly, and... It's a little surprising because this is sewer water and that's gross, but I guess as long as they can hold their breath, you'll see what I mean when I say that there are worlds that aren't so forgiving with their water. But that's not until like World 8, so we'll see it when we get there. And Clanker's out of the water, and oh, he's happy. I mean, I would be too if I was out of that sewer water, but eyeballs. Of course, once he's raised, you can actually access the rest of the level more efficiently, so this is something you have to do fairly early. And that's also part of why once I took care of the underwater stuff, got it out of the way first, because now we don't really need to worry about it. We've taken care of most of the underwater portion of this level, and I am grateful for that. Not too much of this level is underwater, and as you can see, we've gotten it pretty much out of the way already, so it's no big deal. And here we have one of these. This is always kind of weird platforming, where they have you just jumping along the walls like this, and it won't be the last time we have to do it, not at all. You might have seen it, you might remember it from Shark Food Island in the other, in the last video in Treasure Trove Cove, where you had to ascend that tall pillar by doing that thing. Also, you break that by doing that, but that's not what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna go down that way, because if we come down in here, we have 1 more of those. And with that, we have completed a new energy unit. So we are up to 6 energy units. That is a lot of health. Now, I think we've taken care of everything that we can get to normally, and we're just going to be climbing onto Clanker's back and getting the rest of the stuff that way. Oh, jeez. This is gross. Like, I'm not sure what Clanker is supposed to be, if he's supposed to be a robotic shark, but then he has very organ parts of him, and we're gonna be seeing more of that later, just you wait. But he has the bits of flesh coming out the side, so maybe he's a cyborg? Either way, he's also Gruntilda's garbage disposal, so he eats the garbage, and that's just gross, and I'm not sure if he actually said that yet, but he is for the garbage disposal, and that's disgusting. No biggie though, because we managed to get ourselves the next thing.
Clanker's dessert now. Eat too much garbage. Help, Clanker.
I know my voice runs on longer than the actual thing does, but that's because, well, I mean, Clanker is big and terrifying, and if you peck at that grade, you'll get triumphant music and get another Jiggy. Now, as I was saying a little earlier, the worlds they seem to me like they're put in sets of 3, with Clanker's Cavern being the last of the easy worlds and introducing a few more difficult elements, but lengthwise, I think this is the last really short world in the game, and after this, they do get longer. With Mumbo's Mountain is the shortest of the short. It's ridiculously small. You remember, of course you do. Now that we've taken care of that, though, I think we've established everything that we can almost outside of... Actually, I think there's one more thing we can do. And what we want to do is we want to stand on this bolt in Clanker's blowhole, ride it up here, and walk along this path. You want to go at a fairly slow rate along this because it's very easy to slip off. Now this level is interesting in that it has 2 Jiggies at the top of the level, relatively speaking. We've got one over here, and then we had one over at the opposite end. But that brings us up to 5 Jiggies, and if I look around the level, I think we've gotten everything on the perimeter of the level to worry about. So, looking at the clock, I think that'll be enough for this episode. It might not have seemed like it was very much, and honestly it wasn't, but I want to save the rest of Clanker's Cavern for the next episode. And you might be wondering, Mr. Devious, what's left aside from standing in between his terrible, terrifying eyes? Well, he said his teeth hurt, and even though we've taken care of everything outside of Clanker, in the next episode we are going to be going somewhere very exciting. I hope to see somebody in the next one. Bye-bye.